Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to welcome you to the second day of the Global Innovation Summit. And before we continue our program, I would just like to briefly introduce myself. My name is Justin King. I'm a member of the team at SAGIA, and I will be your Master of Ceremonies for the rest of the event. You may notice that I am not a Saudi, but from what I lack in nationality, I think I make up for in pride for what Saudi Arabia has done, what the GFCC does, and really the reasons why we're all here. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce the Honorable Deborah Wince-Smith, President of the GFCC.
Salam alaikum. Welcome to all of you, and a special welcome to our colleagues and guests who've just arrived in the kingdom. We understand that some of you, and you know who you are, have had some arduous journeys exacerbated by the vicissitudes of travel that we all experience from time to time. And in spite of some of the best laid plans, you are all to be congratulated for your perseverance, your improvisation, and being very resilient. I've heard about journeys that landed in places where we weren't supposed to come to, journeys that took some of our colleagues here from Hong Kong to LA and back to Saudi Arabia, all within 24 hours, but you made it. And I want to specifically also thank the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Infrastructure, who we just heard so brilliantly, Christian Wakanda, for getting here as well, because he had a challenging time. As we begin the second day of the 6th annual meeting of the Global Federation of Competitiveness Councils and our Innovation Summit on 21st Century Infrastructure, which has already gotten off to a tremendous start today with this fabulous panel, I want to again, on behalf of everyone, let us all extend our thanks and appreciation to our gracious hosts in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Your Royal Highness, Prince Saud Al Faisal, on behalf of the entire GFCC, please accept our thanks for your leadership as the 2015 GFCC Vice Chairman and your most gracious hospitality and the dedication of your colleagues at SAGIA. Allow me to also recognize, and I hope we'll do this also at the end of the day, a few people who've really worked hard over the last year to make all this happen. First, leading the SAGIA team, Dr. Holcomb Saman. I saw Holcomb a minute ago, the chief economist of SAGIA. He's worked very tirelessly with his great team, including Justin, who thinks he's here for a while, but we already have plans to bring you back, Justin, to Washington, so don't get too comfortable here. And I also allow me to formally recognize the new Executive Director of the Global Federation of Competitiveness Councils, Dr. Roberto Alvarez, who is always working. He's back there right now up to something. But Dr. Alvarez, many of you knew before when he was one of the very senior leaders in the Brazilian Agency for Industrial Development, very much at the beginning of the creation of the GFCC. And we truly globalized our organization and our purpose when we were able to persuade Dr. Alvarez and his family to come up to our headquarters in Washington. And he has really brought energy and vision and a lot of creativity into what we're doing. And I always say to Roberto when he has another idea that, you know, ideas have to be implemented. And as an archaeologist, even though I know that the Romans were incredible builders, Rome was not built in a day. So sometimes I have to slow Roberto down a little bit and say, a little bit of time and progress before we really get to where we're going. But Roberto, on a serious note, I really want to recognize you. And also many of you have met and worked with Katherine Tinker, who's the program manager of the Global Federation. And she has also brought not just energetic leadership, but a lot of intellectual depth and management skills. One of the things that's kind of exciting about our summit this year is that we've seen in action how these two teams, from different parts of the world, different cultures, different educational backgrounds, they've really come together. They've co-developed, they've co-executed this. They've worked across time zones and business cultures, and they've really forged a high-performance collaboration. And that really epitomizes the essence of the GFCC and really is becoming what we like to think of now as our DNA. And what are some of the features of the GFCC's DNA in terms of what we do and why we do what we do? Well, first of all, the GFCC is a community, and we are convening, catalyzing, communicating, collaborating, co-creating, and constructing a new global competitiveness community that's addressing challenges, making choices, and leading change. And this is an extended community, yes, of thought leaders, but action leaders. We share our experiences, we learn about our challenges and opportunities at this nexus of innovation and at this summit, infrastructure. And we are also really comprised of leaders and practitioners who are walking across this continuum of, again, ideas to implementation. His Excellency, Saudi Governor Abdullah Al Othman, and the Saudi leaders yesterday who were with us shared the vision and the phenomenal progress that's underway in this kingdom, the Saudi United Investment Plan, tangible progress to not only improve, to create a very high standard for business regulatory environment that's going to attract the high-value investment and grow high-value economic activity in the kingdom. We also had the opportunity, and we were very honored yesterday, that the president of Al Faisal University, Dr. Mohammed Al-Hayaza, launched the first ever corporate governance index to measure performance and progress to attain the highest standards of corporate transparency and governance for public and private companies accessing global capital markets. We engaged in very rich conversations on the enabling infrastructures for high-value innovation, from, again, investment in regulatory agendas to the frontiers of technological innovation that are rapidly rechanging our world, to the imperative of investing in unleashing the potential of people. People truly constitute the circulatory lifeblood of prosperity. I've heard some say people are the oil of the 21st century. And our colleague, Abdullah, who moderated a wonderful panel on people and talent that was very inspirational, captured so much of that. And one of my colleagues I was very proud of from the council, Dr. A.J. Malshi, really inspired us with his story as a young man in India who imagined what his future would be. And not only did he take the risk to come, he's now emerged as one of the leaders in the whole nanotechnology transformation of our world. We also heard from the GFCC members about real-life case studies on their national competitiveness strategies. We heard from our colleague Khaldoon and Sagi about the competitiveness strategy underway there. We heard also from the United Emirates and others about very interesting implementation of strategies that have been developed around their particular needs and priorities. And finally, at the end of a very long day, some of you trusted me from the morning to stay, even though I know we were all very tired. And we were really brought to our feet, and we were taken into a state of mindfulness by the inspirational tour de force and the performance of Peter Myers. Peter, I don't know if you're with us right now. Thank you for being here, but more importantly, thank you for your gift to the GFCC, because you mesmerized and galvanized us to truly stand up together as a community to experience very powerfully an enlightened and ennobling, empowering construct that will really help us going forward as leaders to truly lead lives of lasting leadership. And I also want to say, because I saw some anxiety in the room when Peter was asking us to do a few things, a lesson, and you can probably guess by now I'm using the letter L for leadership and life and all of that, but a lesson we all learn as young people, and I think it's something actually that our millennials need to learn as a piece of wisdom for those of us who are at a different stage of our life journey, that to be a leader, you first must be a follower. And last night we followed Peter, and in so doing, he enabled us to be the leaders we aspire to be. So I'm going to give you another round, Peter. Thank you. So I also want to say this morning that the GFCC's global chairman, Mr. Charles Holliday, who is now the chairman of Royal Dutch Shell, after having had an incredibly distinguished career as the CEO and chairman of DuPont. We were so honored he was the chairman for many years of the U.S. Council on Competitiveness and was with us for the actual founding of the GFCC back in 2010. Chad wanted to be with us very much. He had a health issue, was not able to come, but I was able to communicate with him last night, and he sends his greetings and congratulations to all of us for what I told him has really been the high mark in the evolution and the journey of the GFCC. So I wanted to share that with all of you. And I want to reiterate, why we're here together, why we work together, and why it's so important to our collective futures, and why every one of us on our own journeys coming together to walk together has to realize that these journeys we're undertaking, they do have beginnings, we do start, but they're journeys that are a series of journeys, and they never really have an end. So the walk together here, the journey in the kingdom, will be part of the step along the way to the journey of competitiveness and innovation and prosperity. The value of the GFCC is really the value of who we are, because we are people and we are networks of leaders from really around the world in very, very different places. Here in Saudi Arabia, of course, we're so honored to be here. But look at our members and our active leaders in the board and founders. Brazil, Russia, India, the United States, the Emirates, Ireland, Korea, the Philippines, Japan, New Zealand, Chile, Morocco, Canada, all very, very different economies, but we all share one thing. We want our citizens and our children and our societies to be more prosperous, more sustainable, and to go into the future standing tall with leadership and hope and happiness. And so we are really co-creating together a global competitiveness movement, and that's very different than just an organization, because a movement inspires others to not only join us in our beliefs, but do things, yes, in an interested way, but a movement is one where we share collective effort. So I want you to look at the screen, which I think you've all been looking at, to really see who our members are, and just a snapshot, again, of the network. Under the leadership of our chairman, Chad Holliday, this May, and I reported this to the board, we did change our bylaws to really enable the GFCC to expand its membership and participation, to invite in any organizations, including individuals, who are committed to our mission of competitiveness and prosperity. So I hope all of you will think about returning to your own lives and work about participating in our activity. We are very happy in that context of expanding the GFCC membership to announce that we have our first new corporate member who has joined the GFCC as a sustaining member from industry, and that is Lockheed Martin. And yesterday we had the pleasure to hear Dr. Keoki Jackson, the Vice President and Chief Technology Officer, who is not only one of the leading technologists in the United States and globally, but is in charge with taking one of our great global enterprises, to the next level of innovation. So I want to formally recognize and thank Lockheed Martin for trusting in us to become the first corporate member of the Global Federation of Competitiveness Councils. And we also have been very excited and have greetings from our colleagues in Russia who were not able to be with us, but they have already brought now 2 major Russian corporate enterprises that will be joining the GFCC. And we hope also that next year, many of you and our members will at least bring one of your leading enterprises to join this group of corporate leaders. This is an important moment. We talked about that yesterday in terms of the world's challenges and opportunities. And that's why, again, when I'm mentioning the expansion of the movement, why organizations that might not have traditionally been thought of as partners in the GFCC are eager to participate and will be very much involved in our work. And I'll give you an example of 2 of those organizations that enable you to think of how the movement really is bringing in new and diverse viewpoints, experiences, and responsibilities for competitiveness in their own nation. We're very, very pleased that the Brazilian National Confederation of Industry, CNI as it is known, has joined the GFCC. CNI is a very different organization than what we have in the United States. We don't have anything like CNI, but CNI brings together every single Brazilian industrial enterprise in the country. It has thousands and thousands of members, from Embraer and Vale and these leading corporations to the entrepreneurs that are rising above. And also, with Brazil's focus on competitiveness and being a founder of the GFCC, the main government entity for investing and funding science and technology in Brazil, FINEP, has joined the GFCC. We're very honored that the science advisor to the Prime Minister of Malaysia will be with us, and I also want to recognize the Chairman Emeritus of Japan's Science and Technology Agency, Nakamura-san, my friend and colleague who's with us, also representing an organization in Japan that is really developing and designing the strategy and implementing it for Japan's leadership in science and technology. And I have the pleasure and delight to be on his advisory committee, but every October when I'm in Japan, it seems like Nakamura-san, we have more and more Japanese scientists winning the Nobel Prizes, and I think that's a testament to the power and purpose of Japan's Science and Technology Agency. So thank you for trusting me to come to the GFCC, and I'm very happy that you told me that it's of been value to you. So I want to recognize you for being here. So from the beginning, the GFCC thought, what are 2 products? What are 2 things we could do that will, 1, help us with our learning and exchanging best practices and knowledge, but also leave a footprint and a path for going forward? And we've created and developed and expanded 2 really hallmark products for us, and they are the GFCC Best Practices and Competitiveness Strategy Report that we issue every year, and the GFCC Global Competitiveness Principles. The theme, of course, for the summit that was chosen by our Vice Chair, Prince Saad Faisal, is 21st Century Innovation Infrastructure. And you all have a hard copy of our Best Practices Report. And I'm not obviously going to go in, and we're going to hear some actual presentations on the best practices. But what's very interesting in all of them is, 1, they highlight the imperative of infrastructure, which we just heard so beautifully expressed in the conversation that just took place. But they also talk about the imperative for the public-private partnerships, and that if infrastructure is done right, it can take countries that have had no natural resources and assets except creative, talented, dedicated people. We heard about that yesterday from Minister Kwong in Korea, what the Korean story was, and what it meant to Korea to now become one of the great global economies and also technology leaders. But those themes are cutting through all these best practices. So I urge all of you, in a quiet moment when you're not doing your smartphones and things, to really look and read the Best Practices Report. The 21st Century Competitiveness Principles. This, I think, is something that we are perhaps as an organization not fully taking advantage of the power and potential of this document. It's only a page. We work on it in a very serious way together. It's part of our co-collaboration. And it's really a 10-point action plan that if policymakers understood it and read it and made steps to implement it, think of the progress we could make in this global competitiveness movement in our own nations. So when we came together to create these foundational principles, we realized, yes, there are foundational principles. They are everything from the importance of everyone investing in talent and a skilled workforce and contributing to research and development and establishing transparency and rule of law and protecting intellectual property, as well as ensuring that we exploit and use resources in smart, sustainable ways, particularly energy, that we also bring all components of our societies into the innovation game, women, minorities, diversity, all of those are foundations in the pillars of talent, technology, investment, and infrastructure. But when Minister Kwong hosted us in Korea in 2013, it was his idea, because the theme of the meeting was the creative economy, let's map those foundational principles against what we were talking about there, creativity and imagination. And so we innovated our principles at the innovation meeting in Korea. And Minister Kwon, I know that one of the tangible outcomes of that was the principles that the GFCC co-created were actually presented in your Congress, and many of them have been implemented in Korean law. That is impact. So the principles that we're releasing today on 21st century infrastructure, they are a 10-point blueprint plan for all of us to use, but very importantly, I would like to ask all of you to take this back and with your leadership, send a letter to the heads of your organizations, to your partners, to your government leaders, and really articulate why these principles are important for your country. I do that every year as president of the U.S. Council on Competitiveness. We send the principles to our cabinet officers. We send them to every member of Congress. We send them to every governor. And I'm very happy about this. I think actually I have an idea here that I may create a wall of the letters. Every year I get a letter back from the Secretary of Commerce, the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Energy, many governors and many members of Congress congratulating this and saying that they have learned and they want to move on some of those things. So that again is how we need to take the leadership into implementation. So there are 5 C's. I'm back to the alliteration about this nexus of infrastructure and development. It's consensus, it's creation, it's collaboration, it's communication, and it's change. So I will just very, very quickly call out the 10 principles and then again hope that you all will embed these in your leadership roles going forward. The first is to promote and leverage public-private partnerships and co-investment. 2, embed innovation solutions and next-generation capacity into all infrastructure projects. 3, foster the creation of new knowledge and advanced technologies and the development of high-skilled talent through infrastructure projects. 4, accelerate infrastructure projects by engaging and coordinating across government branches and levels and leveraging private sector assets. 5, establish and enforce legal regimes for the protection and allocation of property rights and ensure the integrity, the security, and privacy of critical global infrastructures such as telecommunications and cyber. 6, develop livable, safe, healthy, and resilient communities. I think we need to rewrite that one. Develop livable, safe, healthy, resilient, and lovable communities. 7, use infrastructure to enable the free flow of goods, capital, and people. 8, drive sustainable development through more productive, efficient, and environmentally responsible use of natural resources and energy. 9, enable investment and productivity growth through stable economic policies and transparent and cost-efficient regulatory environments. And 10, what we're doing here today, what we continually need to do, number 10, benchmark globally and continuously infrastructure investments and best practices. Now I would like to invite to the stage the members of the GFCC who helped co-create these principles and contributed to our best practices report to collectively congratulate ourselves and to have a group photo. Please come to this stage. And before I relinquish the podium, we have a new best practice that will set the benchmark for next year, and that is that I'm asking all of the GFCC members to add a little bit to your luggage when you come, because even though we live in a digital world, we still like to sometimes have beautiful reports, such as the ones you have at your seats, and we will send these out digitally, and they'll be on our website and things. But we're very, very pleased that our colleagues from the Emirates brought with them quite a number of copies of a fabulous report that they have issued called Policy in Action. And Shahida, why don't you come up? You and your colleagues are the author of that. We'll get a picture. But I want to thank you for taking the initiative to bring the report and sharing it. And this really captures the journey of the Emirates and what they've done and how they've built competitive advantage from industries of the past, industries of the future. And I'm going to brag here a little bit, Peter. I know it's not supposed to say I, but you have to give me a little liberty here because I am an archaeologist. And even though I love the future, I live in the past a lot. And when we were having to think about the most beautiful place yesterday, I was thinking about Mada al-Saleh and where I went to see the Nabatean culture. But I'm very proud that Sheena, you gave me the opportunity to write about the role of ceramics and potteries and artistry from ancient times in the Gulf region to the industry that's been created today and how it's all a fusion of knowledge and technology. So thank you for letting me have that opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deborah, for that address. And once again, thank you for the fantastic work that you and the GFCC continue to do. Oftentimes, I guess, competitiveness calls upon us to inject a bit of flexibility into how we do business, and I'm going to actually call on us now to inject a bit of flexibility into our schedule. Instead of proceeding with the GFCC cases as was planned, we're going to take a very short 10-minute coffee break, at which point we will then proceed with the GFCC cases. So please make sure to be here in the next 10 minutes.